Everyone. I'm Marilyn Petito Devaney, and I will be presiding. And I first want to welcome you all, and also, first of all phones away in respect to the nominee, in respect to the process. And I'm going to ask if anyone is planning to speak, would you stand to? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good, thank you. Okay, I'm going to read the letter from the governor. Dear councilors, I am pleased to nominate Christopher N. Henry to the position of Associate Justice of the District Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I welcome you. And would you like to introduce everyone that's here for you?
Oh, absolutely. So I'll start on this. This is Attorney Sheryl Kimball. She'll be speaking on my behalf. My father, Bruce Henry, my mother, Janice Henry, my wife, Michelle, and Judge Asha White. And then on the screen here, we have Judge Matt Masher.
Very good. So I will introduce the councilors. We have two councilors, Councilor Eileen Duff and Councilor Terrence Kennedy. Thank you for coming. I see my friend, Judge Machera, and I know that he said if he was running late, he would be on Zoom. I'm disappointed that he couldn't be here, but it's so good to see you, and I welcome you, and we're waiting to hear what you have to say about this nominee.
Good afternoon. I hope everybody can hear me okay.
We're not hearing you. Hold on.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay. Okay, Judge.
I can hear you guys fine. Can you guys hear me? Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I apologize for not being in person. We're just, as Judge White knows, we're having a particularly difficult week with a lot of people that are out this week. So I send you greetings from the great Chelsea District Court. I'm really honored to be here today on behalf of my friend Chris Henry. I had the pleasure of meeting him.
Is that the loudest, Aaron, that you can get that? Is it any louder? I don't know whether everyone in this room can hear, you know.
It's pretty loud.
Okay, thank you.
So once again, it's an honor for me to be here today to speak on behalf of my friend Chris Henry. I had the pleasure of meeting Attorney Henry in the beginning of my career as a defense attorney, having had spent 10 years as a supervising assistant district attorney in Suffolk County. And, you know, I used to work for Senator Patricia McGovern way back in the days of the late 80s. And she always had a great saying. When you met a lawyer, you knew right away either they got it or they don't get it. And Chris was someone that the second you met him, he got it. He seemed to be experienced well beyond his years. He was an excellent trial attorney, but more importantly, he was a better human being. He deeply cared about the people that we represented. He cared about the victims, and he cared about everybody that worked in that courtroom. Everybody in Chelsea remembers Chris for his great disposition, his skill as a lawyer, but more than that, his compassion. You know, some of us come to work and we sort of glide through it. We see lawyers every day that sort of glide through their job, and you meet lawyers that actually are in this business for the right reasons, and that is to actually help people. I love being a part of the district court because it's a unique place, and it's a place that we can genuinely help people. I have the privilege of being the presiding justice of not only Chelsea, but the Chelsea District Court Drug Court. And Chris gets it. He gets the people who are struggling through terrible times of addiction. He gets the fact that some people are here on their worst day, but with the help of the district court, some call it community court, we can pool the resources of our community to help people, to make courts a place of help, not just a place of hurt. There's no question in my mind that he would be an invaluable member of the judiciary. So much so, no offense to Asha White, but I'd love to see him in Chelsea too, just like I get the pleasure of seeing Asha at least once a month, and I hope to see Justice White a lot more because he shares a lot of the same qualities. Now, I know Attorney Henry spent a lot of his career working for the governor's office in a different capacity. And knowing my past experience working for the Executive Office of Consumer Affairs, I know that Chris has done probably 40, 50 administrative hearings. And the reason I bring that up and what's important to note about that is you're using the same skill set. You're using your common sense, you're using your ability to direct exam, using your ability to cross-exam, and you're using your ability to be a human being, to assess each individual case on its merits, and to assess each individual as an individual and not just a case. So I have the pleasure of also being the president of the Massachusetts Judges Conference, which gets me in contact with a lot of judges in a lot of different capacities in different courts. There's no question in my mind that Chris Henry would be an outstanding district court judge. Having said that, and I'm friendly with Chris, I take this job extremely seriously. It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I do not make these recommendations lightly. I have had several people who I like and love very much, who I will not support for this job because simply it's not the right fit. And I would not ever come before this esteemed body and recommend somebody that I am not absolutely comfortable would be an outstanding district court judge. I thank you for your time. It's always great to see you. It's always an honor to appear before you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Judge. Any councilors have any questions of Judge Machera?
Thank you for your,
Council Kennedy.
thank you for your testimony, Judge. Obviously, it means a lot to me. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thanks so much.
Council Ferrara has joined us. Do you have any questions for Judge Machera?
I do not, Judge. Thank you. Always a pleasure to see you, sir.
It's always great to see you too, Counselor.
Judge.
Yes.
Marilyn, I was just going to ask you, the last time you observed this nominee was what, 2011, 2012? When was it? 8 years ago, anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably about that.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of speaking to Chris on a number of occasions. And in fact, I think that I was one of the individuals that said to him, you know, you should really think about applying, because you run into certain people in your career that you know are destined for this. And the way he treated people in the district court, and the way I know my colleagues now, some of that have retired, including Judge Dunbar Livingston, thought extremely well of Chris. You know, every now and then somebody comes along and you identify somebody that you just know would be an outstanding fit, that they have the right disposition, they have the right skill set, and they have the right mindset as to what our job can be. Because our job can really be to help people and change people's lives. And I think that he's going to be one of those people that's going to be able to do that in the district court.
Well, I'll tell you, it's really an honor for you to be here and talking for this nominee. And you have a great memory because you have to think back to 2011, 2012, when this nominee did work for the district attorney. So I thank you, and it's always good to see you, and I miss that you're not in person.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I was looking forward to seeing everybody, but
That's okay. So the next witness is Judge Asha White. Welcome back.
Council,
How long has it been?
just about a year, almost exactly a year.
Wow.
It's wonderful to see you again. Council Ferrer, it's great to see you.
For you, we're glad to see you.
It's wonderful to see you and Attorney Kennedy, Council Kennedy, who I see fairly regularly.
Sorry, all the councils aren't here. It's only a year that we've seen you.
It's my pleasure to speak on behalf of Attorney Chris Henry. I won't bore you echoing the sentiments of Judge Mashera, which I 100% agree with. I met Chris back in 2011 when I was a bar advocate in Chelsea Court and he was an assistant district attorney in Chelsea Court. And we had several cases from a time period of 2011 to roughly 2014. We had several cases together. He not only was knowledgeable, not only was personable and warm, but he really was willing to listen. We were in Chelsea Court. It had very serious cases that had people with battling mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and we had several of those kinds of cases together. And he was always the person that you went to try and talk about a case. And that's what really stood out about Chris. I think he was the assistant district attorney that every defense lawyer wanted to deal with. He understood that there were times when you had to be in opposition, because that's the job, but there were other times where you're really working together to come to the best disposition. So he was the guy we all wanted to see, and I think he'll be the judge that every lawyer wants to see when they appear in front of him. And he has my biggest endorsement. I look forward to any questions.
Any questions of the councilors?
Thank you for coming.
Well, I'm last, the chair always asks last, but it's very interesting because the nominee worked just 3 years as a practicing lawyer going to court, and it's remarkable that you can remember. And tell me about that working relationship. How many cases did you have that you saw?
Yes, over the course of that 3 years, we had countless cases together. I really couldn't count how many cases we had together. It must have been at least 50 or 60 over the course of that time. I saw Chris at one point probably 4 days a week. That's how many cases that we had together. There are a couple that stick out. I remember we had a firearm case together. We did a motion to suppress against each other in a firearm case. Then we had another case that sticks out in my memory. It was a case of a gentleman who was in a mental health shelter, was on several medications, did not properly take those medications, began having delusions, and threatened another occupant of the shelter with some sort of item, I think a utensil or something along those lines. He was charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, and Chris reached out to me and said, hey, tell me as much as you can about this person. I understand some of the issues that are going on. Tell me as much as you can about him, and we'll try and work out some kind of disposition that takes into consideration, that person's entire history, their circumstances. And that's the way he always was. Those two cases are the ones that stick out in my mind, but it had to have been at least 50 cases that we had together.
Okay. Any of the councilors have questions? You have no questions. So I was the only one with a question. But I thank you so much, and thank you for your service. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Council. Always good to see you.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak in support of this nominee that is not on the list? Or I do have one more, I'm sorry. Do I have one more? I'm sorry, I have one more witness. I am so sorry. It's kind of a crazy day. We're starting over an hour late because of another hearing, so excuse us. So tell us who you are and.
Good morning. My name is Sheryl Kimball. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm nervous, so I'm sorry. I am the owner and managing partner of Keegan Roland, which is at 99 High Street in Boston. Our firm is regulatory and administrative law practice with about 32 employees. I first met Mr. Henry in 2018 in his role of Chief of Staff of the Department of Public Utilities under very difficult circumstances. My client, NiSource, from Columbus, Ohio, caused the terrible gas explosions arising from an overpressurization of natural gas in Lawrence, Andover, and North Andover. I will never forget the stories that I heard from customers at the public hearings that Mr. Henry and the department conducted. These people recounted how they thought that their homes were being bombed that day, that they were so terrified that they could not return to their homes even days and weeks later, feeling that their homes were unsafe. NiSource came under investigation by the NTSB. the Massachusetts U.S. Attorney's Office, and the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities, to name a few. Over the 2 years, starting in 2018 and through the fall of 2020, through the alarming stages of the first stages of COVID-19 pandemic, my job was to work through issues at the DPU, with my primary contact being Mr. Henry, as serving as the chief of staff. There were many difficult questions that arose in that time regarding the limits of the department's authority, the power to enforce, penalize, the ramifications of COVID on work practices for Columbia Gas workers entering people's homes. There were constitutional issues about terminating the Massachusetts franchise rights of an investor-owned utility. And on the other hand, the DPU and Mr. Henry saw that there was a fundamental need to protect the interests of customers who feared the safety of their own homes. Through these 2 years, I came to know and deeply respect Mr. Henry. We worked through issues with me representing the culprit, so to speak, but still an entity with rights, and Mr. Henry protecting the interests of customers and the intelligence and the broader Commonwealth, Throughout this process, he demonstrated grace, skill, intelligence, and practicality. I learned that he is intuitive, perceptive, and quietly, patiently tough. He had immense compassion for customers, but also for the situation, dealing with the company on a fair and professional basis at all time, despite the personal feelings that we all had about the event. He assisted the chairman in managing a serious, complex challenge with many competing considerations, and he never once fell short of sorting everything out legally, logically, and reasonably. I know that a question about Mr. Henry that could arise in this process is his relative youth for a position on the bench, and I would like to address that question directly. The council should squarely dismiss any concern in this regard. By nature or nurture, he is the kind of person that was probably 40 when he was 10 and was at least 80 when I met him. He is seasoned and mature in his decision-making. As he was leaving the DPU, I tried to hire him to run my practice and to be my advisor, but he didn't want that job. Mr. Henry has a calling and is to serve the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in a judicial role. In my career, I have had the honor of recommending only one other individual to the bench, which is Mary Kay Ames, Associate Justice of the Massachusetts Superior Court. I mention this to you because this is the most succinct way that I can convey to you what kind of person Mr. Henry is and what type of justice he will be, as they are in the same exact mold. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Any questions from the councilors?
Thanks.
Now, is there anyone that's here that's not on the list who would like to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none. Is there anyone in opposition?
His wife's here, she might.
Hearing none? Hearing none, then it's your turn for your presentation.
Thank you, Counselor.
The people out in Zoom land are listening.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start by first thanking this council for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm truly honored to be here, and I'd like to extend an extra thank you to Councilor Devaney for hosting me today. I'd also like to express my sincere gratitude to Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for the honor of this nomination. I also want to thank the Judicial Nominating Commission, the Joint Bar, Bob Ross, Lauren Green Petrino, and Valerie McCarthy, as well as my witnesses, Justice Mashera, Justice White, and Attorney Kimball for speaking on my behalf. There's no doubt that I would not be here today without the love, support, and encouragement of my family. My wife Michelle, my parents Janice and Bruce are here today with me, and my siblings, my 4 siblings, Joe, Mara, Liz, and Margaret are all watching remotely. I'd like to add a sincere and heartfelt thank you to my wife Michelle, with whom I have shared both the greatest moments in my life and also weathered the most difficult times. You continue to make me a better person, and I would not be in this position today if it were not for your love and support. On the professional side, I'd like to thank my former colleagues at the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, the judges, clerks, and court staff, and members of the defense bar, each of whom made practicing in Chelsea and downtown Boston one of the most rewarding times of my professional career. I also want to thank the current and former commissioners and staff of the Department of Public Utilities, especially the late Angela O'Connor, who afforded me so many wonderful opportunities during my time with the department. And finally, I want to thank my team at the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, who work hard every day for the consumers here in the Commonwealth. Growing up as the fourth of 5 children, my parents instilled in all of us the importance of compassion, dedication, and public service. For many years, my mother was a nurse while my father taught high school English during the day and went to law school at night. My mom still jokes today how she and my dad were often like 2 ships passing in the night as they juggled childcare, work, and school. When my siblings and I were a bit older, my mother began teaching in Cambridge Public Schools, focusing on children with a range of learning challenges, and she just recently retired. My father worked as a civil litigator for many years until his confirmation as a Superior Court judge, where he served for over 15 years, just retired in 2020. I feel particularly fortunate to have been brought up in a home where the values of compassion, dedication, and public service were not simply preached, but they were practiced as well. For as long as I can remember, my family and I have been involved in community service and public service. I have wonderful memories of picking up and dropping off donated clothes, toys, food, and other necessities for families in need, as well as cooking and serving meals at the Bristol Lodge in Waltham, occasionally the Pine Street Inn here in Boston. Also spending school vacation building homes in Virginia with Habitat for Humanity, visiting nursing homes and schools with groups of friends to sing holiday songs and bring gifts for the residents. These experiences taught me what it really means to have compassion and dedication and to serve the community, and they've been an important part of shaping who I am today. With my upbringing and those values instilled in me, I knew I wanted to pursue a career in public service and after law school, and I've gained so much valuable experience during my career, which, if confirmed, I would bring with me to the bench. The Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, I tried many cases, argued hundreds of motions, did countless arraignments and pretrial hearings and conferences, and worked in the drug and mental health specialty courts. At the Department of Public Utilities, I presided over many administrative hearings, drafted legislation and regulations to oversee rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft and their 200,000 plus drivers. And as Chief of Staff, I helped manage a busy administrative docket and handled a number of high-profile, high-pressure cases. Now, as General Counsel at the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, I am regularly required to respond to civil subpoenas and handle matters related to litigation, personnel, labor, ethics, conflict of interest, and policy, all of which required me to quickly learn new areas of law related to the issues coming from our 5 different regulatory agencies. Public service has also been a part of my life outside of the office. Early in my legal career, I volunteered for community events such as Basketball for Peace, Soccer for Peace, the National Night Out, and the Mother's Day Walk for Peace. In 2018, I became involved with the CD44 Foundation, an organization created in memory of one of my best friends who passed away in 2016. The foundation provides scholarships to student athletes interested in pursuing higher levels of education. These opportunities have allowed me to feel more connected and a part of my larger community, and it provided me meaningful ways to give back. So these personal and professional experiences have shaped who I am and given me the necessary temperament and range of experience that would make a good district court judge. From community service activities through my career in government, public service has always been a central part of my life. And for me, becoming a judge is truly the highest form of public service. I had the opportunity to see firsthand the impact that a judge can have on so many people in so many different ways, whether it's a person, a family, or even a community. And I want to become a judge that continues serving the public and to have a positive impact on the people who appear before me and the community in which I serve. Maya Angelou famously said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." For so many people who come through the district court, how a judge makes them feel has the potential to impact them beyond the immediate issue which brought them there in the first place. I want to be a person who makes others feel heard, respected, and valued in the community. I am truly honored and humbled to be here before this council. I appreciate that there's always much to learn, and if confirmed, I will commit to working hard and doing everything that I can for the court and the community. Thank you very much for your time, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you. So I will follow the seat rule, but Chris isn't there, so Councilor Duff is to my right.
Good to see you. Much enjoyed our very long chat.
Cheryl, that's a bow.
Your age is the elephant in the room. We've all talked about it. I'm glad you have gray hair. It will make you look older. But since you were born 40, like Benjamin Button, I guess. Anyway, that aside, you do have a good resume, but there are issues today that are non-negotiable. And I told you I would ask you very pointedly about these. Because we're at a very, very unfortunate time in this country, and people seem to have this idea that we're safe in Massachusetts. They also have misconceptions that some of these issues don't affect some of the courts. We just appointed a pro-life judge earlier today who's only 52, who actually would be hearing emergency cases of 15-year-olds who were raped or not, but want to choose autonomy over their bodies. Also, at such a young age, and seems like you're rather brilliant, you may ascend to another court, maybe even the state Supreme Court. Now, people say, oh, we just got a court that were all so young. Well, bless Judge Gantz, he was too. So there is no room for error anymore. So I need to hear you tell me, and I need the words to come out of your mouth. I don't want to hear about settled law. Well, if that's what I don't want to tell you what to say, although I am telling you what I want to hear. But the truth is, I would rather have someone be honest with me about it. I need to know that every judge going to every single bench in the Commonwealth believes that a woman has complete autonomy over their body and the right to make all of their own health decisions regardless.
Yes, Counselor, I agree with you, and I will commit to you that I will absolutely uphold those laws that provide those rights to a woman's autonomy over her body.
And I need you to tell me that you will, under no circumstances, ever rule or vote to overrule gay marriage.
I will, yes, I will absolutely.
I know we can't imagine any. See, this is the thing. I'm asking, I can see from your face, like, that's not even gonna happen. But the US Supreme Court told us that is gonna happen. They told us that's next. There is a real war on women. And, you know, you and I had a discussion about what people call late-term abortion. Now, and I shared with you a very personal story from very close friends of mine who desperately tried to become pregnant, were pregnant, the fetus was not viable, brain was forming on the outside of the skull, had to be taken in the 8th month, because neither the fetus nor the mother would have lived. It was tragic for this family. Every time people talk about this subject, they're shattered. They're absolutely shattered because the mother had to have what we call a late-term abortion. Now, they were never able to conceive after that. They adopted, but they named that child and they honored that child, and it is a painful, painful thing. And so when I talk about complete autonomy, I don't want to just hear, I'll uphold the law. I want to hear you say, I will protect a woman's right to complete autonomy over her body on all healthcare decisions.
Sure, yes, Counselor. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that the way I would do that as a judge is to uphold those laws. Yes, so that's how
I believe you, because we've had somebody here earlier who said, like Judge Kavanaugh, unfortunately, this is going to be a subject we're going to be talking a lot about. I wish it weren't. You know, we had been told this was quote unquote settled law, and that's, you know, in the very first state Supreme Court we had was Judge Graziano, and I asked him this question, and he gave me the pat answer of it is settled law, to which I responded, no, it is not, because if it were, we wouldn't be having these conversations, right?
Sure, right.
50 years later, we wouldn't even be having these conversations, but now society has moved ahead. You know, now we're not just talking about equal marriage, We've got a whole nother issue of transgender rights, which is a very difficult, challenging issue for so many of us to understand, right? But we know it's real. It's not pretend. It's not made up. We know as elected officials and a potential judge that our job is to protect people, make sure they're always safe. Does not ever absolve you of a crime. Make sure they're safe. And there's no, as outrageous as it sounds, there's nothing to say that loving couldn't fall. There's nothing to say that. Because what the US Supreme Court has basically, they pulled off a coup, right? They have done something that no one else has ever been able to do. And they have told us there is no such thing as settled law anymore. So the pressure will be on you, particularly as a younger judge. Okay, we're clear on that. The other thing I'm very concerned about, and it dovetails maybe into some of these issues, is your safety, your mental health, your physical safety, the safety of your family. There may be a time you make a decision which will be unpopular. There may be a time where you make a decision that in hindsight, you know, you let somebody go who commits a horrific crime. You're not God. Things happen. You don't want to, there's no malice. But the public gets angry and the press gets vicious, and we live in a vicious, vicious world. I want to make sure that you have your support system, your parents, your wife, your friends, your family. And when I say spiritual support, even though you know my religious background, I don't mean religious, I mean spiritual support to hold you up if ever you fall into a time of challenge. And frankly, just because of your age, you will be more likely to have times of challenge if you go to this position. And it's really important to me that your people care for you and you care for you, and you're able to have a good, strong, you know, relationship with your partner and your wife, because it's, you know, so many, I hate to make the analogy, but you know, so many cops get divorced because of the stress and everything of the job. This is also an incredibly stressful job. And at the end of the day, family is first. So I just want to make sure, you know, you and I spoke about that, but I mean it. You know, I don't just say it for the rhetoric. I really mean it. Anyway, you know, like I said, when I first saw your resume, I was like, you gotta be kidding, he's Doobie Howser. But our job is to be open-minded, and we have wonderful witnesses. This woman who spoke, and Benjamin Button, that was actually quite powerful. You know, even though said cheekily, it really is. So anyway, thank you for your time that you afforded me in our very long talk. I deeply appreciate it. And carry on.
Counselor, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy.
You got a couple hours worth of questions? Yeah, I had cases with you. You were in the DA's office. You were always terrific. You know, I kind of pride myself when I see young lawyers, young DAs, to be able to pick out the people who have it and who don't. You've seen people in court that don't belong there. We all have. It is right off the bat, there was no question you have it. You're a great lawyer. I'm not bothered by the fact that we weren't in the district courts, because I saw how you were there. It's not that hard to pick it up again. You were doing a lot of administrative stuff along the way, which is great. A little different perspective you'll bring in there as well. You're going to be a great judge. If you are 1/3 of the judge that your father was, and still is, you'll be a great judge. But I do think you probably wish you gave me that quaff I asked for that time. You'd be great.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, let's. Sure, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Councilor Pereira,
I don't have much.
you're so quiet beside me.
We had the opportunity to chat, and I've heard great things about you from people from different walks of life, attorneys, court magistrates, judges. Of course, everyone, you know, talked about the elephant in the room, that you're 12 years old and going to be a judge. But the experience that you have is quite staggering. It surpasses many, many people that we've had before us that are now on a district court. You've tried, how many cases in a few years, would you say?
At least 30, I think probably more, but I wanted to pick a number that I could be absolutely certain.
And the issues and how you been around them for the last 10 years, working for the DPU and general counsel now, is just staggering. I can't imagine the day-to-day operations you had with 185 employees and having to answer to the world about what you did. So, I think you're a great candidate for the job, and thank you for your past service.
Thank you so much, Counselor.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to start with you coming out of law school. So, came out of law school May 2010. And then 8 months later, you started working for the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, where you worked for 3 years. When we met, and thank you for all the time you've afforded me, I asked you, why did you leave the District Attorney's Office? And I understood. You said, little money, and I was getting married, I need the money. Okay, when you left there, where did you go?
I went to the Department of Public Utilities.
You went where?
Department of Public Utilities.
So you went to Department of Public Utilities.
I started.
It doesn't show here because there's a 6 months gap. You left in May 2004. I'm sorry. You left March 2014, the district attorney's office, and you didn't take the job for the utilities until September. So that's 6 months, and you needed the money. You're getting married. So why would you just leave and not have a job to go to? I don't understand that.
It was a very strange, long interview process, actually, because one of the folks who was interviewing me, his mother had passed away. So I'd done an initial interview, and then there was a lengthy delay. And then I got married and was away. In fact, I did my final interview with the commissioners of the department the day that I left for my honeymoon, and then started there shortly thereafter. So yes, that was certainly a difficult time. I just probably assumed too much that I was further along in the process there.
How did you provide for yourself if you didn't have a job?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have a wife who's extremely successful in her field as well. So I'm very grateful.
So I guess I just want to figure this out. You left a job not having a job waiting. That's correct?
Yes.
That's very unusual. Okay, you were very lucky that you had some support here. Okay, and you were going to get married. Okay, I'm going to put that aside. I still can't figure it out, but that's okay. Okay, so for 3 years you worked for the district attorney, and Judge Machero saw you in Chelsea, and Judge White saw you. So wonderful that they remember how well you did in the district attorney's office. So for the next 8 years, you worked under the governor in governmental offices with his staff and all of that for 8 years. Okay, I have to tell you, I've been here 23 years. I never saw a questionnaire like this, because the JNC, Judicial Nominating Commission, is asking you for a writing sample of the last 5 years as a practicing lawyer in court. You were the first one that couldn't do it. You couldn't because when's the last time you were in court?
Probably about 8 years ago, yeah.
Okay, so 2014. I've never seen that. I've never seen that before. So that troubles me, okay? That the JNC would accept a questionnaire that is mandated, required that you tell them your legal work in the last 5 years in the court. When's the last time you've been to court?
In 2014, yeah.
Okay, 2014, right?
Last time I appeared in court, I have.
I'm talking about being an attorney representing a client.
14.
Okay, 14. And you're 38 years old.
Yes.
You're appointed, you're going to be there. I'm not good at math. Is that? So that would be, what, 32 years?
I'm 39 in a couple of weeks, so we could probably be 30.
You know, you're the youngest I've ever seen come through. And you know, If it was Judge Island, different thing. But all I see is that I think you've done a wonderful work. You're a great administrator, great director of consumer affairs and public utilities and transportation, and you've done a good job. But I'm looking for experience in court, criminal cases, civil cases, and the council is going to be voting on 3 years' experience, 3 years of court experience out there representing everyone, okay? So you've got to realize this is a very unique. I never saw so many non-applicable answers because they weren't applicable to you because of that. The other thing is, I was really amazed when I read why you wanted to be a judge. I would have thought your father being a judge, and I voted for him very happily, but you never mentioned the influence he had. That I would have thought would have been the first sentence. Forget that. I'm not going to even get into that. But I got to tell you, and I don't know if your father remembers, but I questioned you didn't have criminal experience. Do you remember that? And you did good. So I am very understanding of people that don't have certain things that I look for. And but this is really amazing. The thing is, looking at this, and you've been an administrator all these years, the other thing is, I look for pro bono, no legal pro bono work at all, zero. That's what you are when you're 38 years old. When we have people in their 50s, you should see the thing they do. And they follow up on those clients to make sure that, they're off the drugs and, they get the children and all of that. That's what, I guess, 38. The other thing is, you never joined any bar association. You're not associated with any bar association, right?
I am a member of the Middlesex Bar.
Yeah, I mean, the Boston Bar, the MBA, I mean, all of them. And that's what we see, the Mass Bar, the Boston Bar. But I'm just saying that this is what I'm looking. And I like you. And I enjoyed being with you that day. It was great. But it's more than voting for a good person. I want someone experienced and qualified with years of experience. I just voted for someone 56 years old that had every award, top lawyer in Massachusetts and all of that. I'm just talking about all of that fit. I mean, you could be 38 years old and you could have been working all these years. The other thing is, I didn't bring my little red book. To apply to be a judge, you have to have 10 working years. And you have, let me say what you have. You have 11 years, 10 months. Okay, so you squeak by. And as my colleague has said, we have to be, we're responsible to the public. And I want to make sure that every person I vote for is doing a job. But you know what? I don't have a crystal ball. And sometimes judges have let me down. They didn't have the compassion. And I look for compassion and empathy. I won't vote for anyone if they don't have that. And I look for all the things that they did for people, pro bono, and how they reached out to people. And, I know in your private life with your family you've done things, but I'm talking about voting for someone, that's going to be there 32 years. That's an awesome responsibility that I have. And so I just want to say that you're asking the council to vote on 3 years' experience as a practicing lawyer in court. And as I said, you couldn't answer, the last 5 years. Never. And these councils I sit with have never seen a questionnaire like that before. And yes, it's wonderful. You have been an administrator, you have been a director, all of that. And I'm sure that the governor is very pleased with you for the work that you've done. But I don't always agree with the governor, okay? So I'm just saying that I am concerned. And one of the questions was any substantial legal experience or accomplishments that you have. A lot of NA, and no, I don't appear in court, all of this. So it's, the councils are going to have a time to look at this and to think of the ones before us and what they've come through. I've never seen anyone come before me in almost 24 years with 3 years in the court. And that's the last time you've been in court. You know, it just, how do you really felt you were qualified for 3 years? You don't think you need more life experience to bring to the court or any of that? Tell me about that. How you decided now? Because I'm going to interrupt you now. I'm going to tell you, I meet with everybody, and I can't tell you how many have told me they applied before and they were rejected. And now 10, 12, 15 years later, they're getting appointed. And you know what they all tell me? You know, I really wasn't ready before. I have learned so much in the last 10 years. So tell me.
And thank you, Counselor. I certainly appreciate the concern, but I think what I would say is, you know, I think if you look at what I have done in those 12 years, and I'll certainly, you know, go through it a little bit and explain to you how I think that that is experience that would be valuable as a district court judge. So, of course, my 3+ years in district court, I think will serve me very well. I was able to work in both a mental health court session as well as a drug court session, and as a Safe Neighborhood Initiative prosecutor, I was charged with, you know, trying cases of the most serious nature. So I've done firearms cases, stabbings, narcotics cases. I mean, just about everything that you could see in district court, I've handled that in some capacity. So I absolutely recognize that, you know, that's 3 years in court. I do think it's worth noting, though, that as a district attorney, especially in Chelsea District Court, you quite literally live in the courthouse. You're in there for, you know, at least 4 hours, probably 6 hours in session all day. But your concern is understood. So what I want to say, in addition to the experience that I have as a prosecutor, I think I've really bolstered that skill set when I moved over to the Department of Public Utilities, where I conducted, you know, many administrative hearings. And I understand that is not the same as being in court. I'm not suggesting it is, but I think there's a lot of transferable skills there. I am taking testimony. I am, you know, reviewing evidence that's being submitted. I'm making determinations on what is before me. And I think that is very valuable. It's a very valuable skill and very valuable experience that I would bring with me should I be confirmed. Additionally, I think, and as Councilor Duff pointed out, you know, there is a lot of pressure to be a judge, and there's a lot of difficult decisions that have to be made in stressful situations. And you know, I've encountered quite a few of those. So we've dealt at the Department of Public Utilities. You know, after, you know, writing and implementing the law to oversee companies like Uber and Lyft, you know, we were on a very tight timeline. So I've worked hard with folks from who are opposite the table, so to speak, to make sure that, you know, we're able to get, you know, things done. And I do think that that's valuable, the ability to you know, put your, you know, head down and really get a lot of work done. You know, additionally, at the Department of Public Utilities, one of the, you know, I'll use the example of the Merrimack Valley gas explosions. That was a unbelievably stressful time in life, but, you know, we were under, you know, microscope with media, with, you know, whether or not, you know, the department, you know, is doing enough, and whether or not, you know, and how we're going to address this company. And, you know, there was a constant barrage of media inquiries and legislative inquiries. And, you know, I think it was absolutely a stressful time, but I was able to do that, I think, by with the same skill set that I would bring to the bench. I think it's extremely important to stay absolutely calm and focus on the facts and the law in front of you, what is applicable. And to be able to stay focused like that is how you're able to get through these very difficult, challenging decisions and situations. And that's a skill that I know that I would bring to the bench as well. And now, as general counsel, we have 5 regulatory agencies under, that are report up to us, and these, general counsels and assistant general counsels, will come to me with their thorniest problems, their biggest issues, and I need to get up to speed on areas of law that I don't have experience in, and I have to do that in very short order, sometimes on the phone with the person who's calling me, because, these issues are time sensitive. We have to make difficult decisions on the fly, and I think my ability to remain calm under these tight timelines or stressful situations or under the microscope will absolutely serve me well, should I be confirmed to the bench, because I fully anticipate that I will encounter many of those situations where there are difficult decisions in front of me and they need to be made right then. So, I acknowledge, and I would never hide anything. I have not appeared as an attorney in district court in 8 years, and since 2014. But since then, I've taken a number of continuing legal education courses related to mostly on rules of evidence and trial issues. And I started this well before I applied for the bench, because I knew that I wanted to get back to the courtroom, and I'll need to continue to educate myself. Absolutely, I'm not done educating myself, but I mentioned that because I've had to get up to speed on issues that I've either been away from for a little while or that are somewhat newer to me. And so I will bring that approach, that hardworking approach with me to the bench when I do encounter issues that undoubtedly I have not yet encountered. And I've also sat in on several sessions since I applied to really bring myself back to the court. I've sat in with Judge White and Judge Frank, and that's been very valuable to me as well. A lot of things came back, and I was my love of district court was certainly I was reminded of it, which was fantastic. But I also remember that it's a busy place, and you need to be able to make difficult decisions in short order. And I'm confident that I'll be able to do that with the skills that I've acquired at these different roles that are not roles that appear directly in court. So.
Well, you must be very familiar with the State House, working with the governor, lieutenant governor, secretaries, and commissioners. And also, you say how you briefed the governor, and also in all of these lieutenant governors, secretaries, and commissioners as well, during emergencies regarding storm preparation and recovery and restoration. So I'm sure if the governor could say it, but it's a conflict of interest, he would be here and he would sing your praises. I'm just saying, I have to make a decision, and the counselors I'm sitting with, they get off the phone, they have to make a decision. 3 years, and that's what I have to go on. 3 years. Administrative, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit being a judge. The experience is great, but it isn't, because we have social workers, we have teachers, we have that have changed their, what they do, and they've gone to law school and have their own law practice and all of that. So as I said, you're a good person, there's no question. Did you ever think, or did anyone in your family ever say, hey, maybe you should wait a little bit?
Actually, no.
You should go back in court. Maybe you should have some clients, because things change in the court. They have different rules. They have different guidelines. I don't know in the last 8 years what they have been, but you haven't been there in court in 8 years. So I'm just saying that, we have a decision to make on 3 years experience.
I understand.
The administrative, but not to have a writing sample for the last 5 years. Never in my almost 24 years has that ever been. Did the JNC question it? Did anyone question it?
Well, I think one of the one of the caveats to that is it has to be a writing sample that you yourself have written with no additional edits at all. So I review and I contribute to all sorts of briefs and memos as general counsel, but those are not my 100% my independent work, which is why I can't use that as a writing sample. So, I've helped draft countless memos, but I'm not always the original drafter. So I need to make sure I'm following the instructions closely. So,
everyone thinks we have such authority. We don't. I didn't choose you. Okay, I don't choose the judges. I didn't choose your dad when he came before me. The governor, the sitting governor appoints 21 lawyers with the unbelievable authority to choose, you're not getting an interview. You're getting an interview. We're going to recommend you to the governor. Imagine. And you know what I have? I don't even know how many applied. I don't know how many they rejected. I have one person to vote on, and everyone thinks I have such authority. I vote yes or no. How many of these 21 people who had this authority to go to the hearing, to ask you questions, how many were there?
if memory serves, I think it was about half. There's probably 10 or 11, I would say.
Isn't that outrageous? And I say it publicly. 21 people who had the unbelievable, awesome responsibility to recommend to the governor. And half of them don't even know you, I don't mean you, but they haven't seen the nominee, haven't gone to the hearing, haven't called, don't know anything about them, and give them a lifetime position. This is outrageous. And I talk about it all the time because not your responsibility, but the chair, Dacia, in this administration has never had 21 people at the hearing, and they all vote. That to me is outrageous. And I see the lawyers in my district, 25, 30 years experience. They can't get an interview, or they do, it's rejected. Some have gone 2, 3 times. I know someone 5 times. All I'm saying is that the system isn't working with the JNC the way they work it. It's outrageous. Because people who have been rejected, we've had good judges that have come back 3 and 4 rejections and have been the best. And I say, thank you for reapplying. Because you know why? Sometimes that political person jumps the line. We've had wonderful judges come through recently, but we have some that aren't. Parole board, just had someone, a state rep who never went to a hearing, never sponsored anything vaguely connected with criminal justice or parole, but he talked to 2 counselors in a month. He's sitting on the parole board. So I'm just saying, I have no control about this, and I live by the serenity prayer. I try to accept the things I can't change. So all I'm saying is you have to understand, to put yourself in my place, in the counselors. We are looking at 3 years practicing lawyer, representing people. No pro bono, no involvement in any association, mass bar or anything. And when it's all said and done, I like you. So that's what I have to do to think that. And I can't say anything more about it, that I have never seen in 24 years, a resume of administrative experience for 8 years and 3 years in the court. And I would have loved to see some kind of a writing from you over the last 5 years, but you don't have any. And you know what? I bet if you stayed there, you would have done good. Because in those 3 years you did, in the 3 years you did. But how does that weigh with the people that we vote on that have 20, 30 years? So I'm gonna pray on this. I really am. I really am. I like you, like your family. You're gonna be proud. Your father's a judge and he's proud of you. But this is going to be really something unusual for me, very unusual. I have to base it on 3 years. So I thank you so much. And I thank everybody for coming on this hot day to come out, and I apologize for 2 o'clock because I had no control of it. I asked for one hearing, and I got outvoted 7-1. We've had 5. Oh, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay, why don't you take your mask off? I can't hear you.
I have,
When
I have an immune system, so I can't try to catch anything. Uh, Um, my name is Casey, and what, you want to know who I am?
I didn't hear your name.
My name is Casey. Yes, I have been a civil rights advocate, disabled advocate, and I was actually going to run for governor council this year. And what I see here, I 100% agree with Honorable Marilyn Petitos. And what I'm seeing here, the reason I actually decided to drag myself to come here today is because in all these judges that are being selected, the interest of the Black community is not being represented. And I'm saying it flat out, because many judges that are being picked, when they're in the court, they don't care about pro se litigants, they don't care about poor people in the community, especially Black communities. I've seen it over and over and over. The tolerance is not there. Our cases in the Black communities are most of the time handed over to the law clerking people, and that affects the Black communities. And what you just mentioned about how the governors select a person, I'm very curious, how many of our Black community are in the community, in the group that selects the judges? Because we are not being represented. And, I don't care about his experience or his age, although that experience is very important. I care about the fact that if he goes into those courtrooms, how is he going to treat Black litigants? Are we going to have equality when he goes into those courts? Because the courthouse is not meant for all whites only. And that has been an issue in the Black community. Do you have stopping me, or do I have my question?
Before I call on you, can you give us your name so it can be on the record, and if you could spell it?
My name is Casey Linado. Would you like me to spell it? It's Linardon. So because my concern here is governor keeps selecting people, but governor is not putting the interest of the Black communities when he selects judges. And it's a big concern that we also have a voice. Anyone you put in that judge suit need to be able to consider our community and how that affects, and it's usually those with disadvantage that court system affects most. So you can bring everybody in here, but I'm more concerned about equality in the courthouse, and that we have seen that the judges being selected, especially the ones that are being selected recently, as you said, they're going to be there till they're 70. Although I really against that, I would think that it should be only a few years and be evaluated. But if you're going to be there a lifetime, some of them tend to forget. Once they get in there, they're more interested in their uniform than in the position they are in. Figure out, hey, I'm not there for 70 years, what do I care? So how does he plan to address Black cases, pro se cases, those that are vulnerable cases? I don't want to feel that he was selected because his father was a judge. How does that protect our interest in the Black community?
Councilor Kennedy, did you want to comment?
If I may, I agree with you 1,000% that the African American community is underrepresented in the court system. Okay, there's no question about it. There are a lot of reasons for that, and I have personally reached out in the African American legal community, the Latino community, to get people to apply. If you were to speak to our Chief Justice, who is an African-American woman, when she was applying, Chief Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court, when she applied, she didn't want to apply to the SJC. I went in and talked to her, talked her into applying for it. I have a note on my desk thanking me for doing that. When there was an opening on the SJC last year, 2 years ago, I announced that I would only vote for an African-American male on the SJC because there wasn't one, which caused the governor to reopen the process, which led to the appointment of Justice Serge George, who was an outstanding justice. I've encouraged a lot of people in the African-American community, the Latino community, the Asian community to apply for these jobs. I've outreached myself, as has a lot of members of this council. One of the problems, very frankly, is it goes deeper than just, you know, we had an African-American male judge who was here just a little while ago, who spoke on behalf of this nominee, Asha White, who, like this nominee, was a little younger than we like to see, okay, when he got on. I encouraged him to apply to get onto the bench. We had discussions over a 2-year period about him applying to become a judge. So there are things that are being done. I just want to say that I hear you. I agree with you that there's not enough representation. Part of it is, it goes deeper than just who the governor's picking. It goes to the fact that, very frankly, the African-American community is underrepresented in the legal community as lawyers. That frankly, just it's a small percentage of the lawyers, and from them, very few even apply. And that's one of the problems. And we try to reach out. It may be a perception that they're not going to get it. It may be that, very frankly, it's much more lucrative to be in private practice. But there are a lot of reasons for the problem that you brought up. We hear you, and I agree with you 1,000%. What we're here for today, though, and our role is extremely limited, is to decide if this man is qualified to be on the bench. That's our only role today. Outside of here, when we're politicians, when we're running for office, when we're in the legal community, we advocate for exactly what you're talking about. And I can tell you every single person on this council does that. Say.
No offense, he's gonna become a judge. He's gonna be in the community that also have black people.
And I'm gonna address that too. I've seen him in court. He was a prosecutor, okay? And in a urban court, a lot of African Americans and an incredible amount of Latino population in Chelsea District Court. They cover Chelsea and Revere, okay? Not wealthy communities, okay? I saw how he treated people. He didn't treat people based on their color. He didn't treat people one way or the other based on the fact that they were African American, Caucasian, Latino. He treated people like people, and I saw that on a daily basis. There is no question in my mind that he'll do anything but that as a judge. None. I have zero reservations about that, and I can assure you, you shouldn't either. Okay, I've seen bigots in the world. I've seen people that are prejudiced in the world. I've seen people, we talk a lot about implicit bias, and his father would tell you they've done a lot of trainings about that over the last 10 years. And there's no question that exists, that we have to look into our own selves to try to address that. I can assure you that he will do that. You are not going to have an issue with him on that issue at all. Some of the other issues that are raised, they're legitimate. He's a little young. The lack of time in the courts the last few years, that's a legitimate concern to raise. I'm not worried about either one because I know him only professionally, but I know the kind of person he is professionally, and I'm confident that he'll be a good judge. And I know that there'll be absolutely no either implicit or explicit bias that comes out of him, period.
I'm sorry, there's only two counselors to direct your question. That was very good. Thank you. How about, Counselor, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, because, and I don't want to belabor this because this hearing is really about him. You know, comments are very valid. But to Council Kennedy's point, I mean, I've been working with the Mass Bar Association over the last 3 years to recruit more diverse candidates. There is a very mindful effort going on. Many of us have done seminars on how to become a judge in the different affinity bars. So it is not that the effort is not there. But the truth of the matter is we don't have the applicants, and some of it is strictly economic, I'll be honest. Judges really don't make that much money compared to the good lawyers in private practice, and most of them have decided to stay in private practice. Now, that said, everyone knows, you know, I get on with Governor Baker now, but I've been a harsh critic of him in many, many areas. I have to say, very honestly and truthfully, he has appointed a more diverse bench than Governor Patrick did, actually. He has. He's appointed over 50% of the judiciary at this point, and he has a more diverse, I mean, it's a fact. We can shake our heads and say, I don't believe it, but it's true. And that is that. But I do, if you have these concerns about the council, I do encourage you to run for it, because it is the most important thing most people are
Live in my district.
So, but anyway, thank you, Counselor. No, that.
Go ahead.
That's,
Chuck.
that's all. It's just, it's, you know, your concerns are shared by all of us, you know. There is, because I'm gay, I'm the closest thing to any minority on this council. That's all we have. Many of us come from multi-ethnic, multiracial families, myself included. So these are real issues. You know, we have people of color in our families, but we're not Black. You're absolutely right. We're white people, and because of that, we walk in privilege. But again, people learn about this, and the more people get involved, the better off the Commonwealth is. But I do have to say, it is not for lack of trying that we don't have people of color and other diversity, because there are many, as you know, if you've explored this race, you know about all the different affinity bars. There are many of them.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Can I?
Sign.
All right, I just want to say, first of all, this is a hearing. We're really going off for the hearing for Christopher Henry, and I have really gone beyond what we are charged to do. And I think that I'm sorry that there's only Councilor Duff and Councilor Kennedy to comment. They're not here, but I think collectively they would say the same thing. Again, I go back to, we have no control. We don't know who. It's the governor and it's the JNC, and they decide. So I have been very outspoken that I want Dacier removed, okay? I'm saying that publicly because I don't think he's doing his job. In this administration, the chair of the JNC has never had 21 lawyers that have the awesome responsibility to choose a judge or a clerk magistrate. How outrageous. How outrageous. So that's what it is. So I'll tell you, I'm very proud of, I just, and I presided both times for the first Korean woman on the Superior Court. She was on the District Court. And 2 women from India descent who are Superior and District Court. I could go on and on, but I'm saying, no, it's not enough. We need more Asians. We know, I mean, there's no question, but we only can vote yes or no on the person that comes before us. We have people out there that will not apply anymore because they just feel, hey, I'm 50, they're not 55, they're not going to get me. They want someone 40. That's what I'm saying, that they're age discriminatory, racial discriminatory, but we only can do the best that we can with the person before us and vet. That's why I meet with everyone, because I'm not just voting on that paper, I'm voting on the whole person. I want to know how that person got here, what their journey was. And I don't separate public from the private life. You can't. And it's very important to see, what that person has done and who they have represented as clients, which is very important to me. I like to see people in private practice because they choose who they're going to represent. And we have a mix. We have people from the Attorney General and everything. Some have just that, or some have both. But I just say that it's a J&C, and the buck stops there, and we do the best we can, and we don't have a crystal ball when these people go through. And believe me, we have had people that really have disappointed us, okay? The lack of compassion and the lack of empathy. So I think that Councilor Kennedy and Councilor Duff have made their comments. I thank you for coming. This was very unusual because, I really want to stick to what we're here for Christopher Henry, but you made good points, and believe me, we understand you're preaching to the choir, okay? So I thank you, and I thank you all for coming, and next week, the way the protocol is that we have the hearing, and next Wednesday, we will break at 12 o'clock. The Lieutenant Governor comes in, and we'll take a roll call, and I will put your name in nomination, and we will vote however the council decides on that day. Thank you all, and I'm going to adjourn. Thank you.